Hello guys, welcome back. This is part 2 now of this build of this lovely new kit from Airfix, the Vulcan. This is a bit of a mismatch now, or a mishmash should I say. Unfortunately, my iPhone, as you all know, I use an iPhone 6 for making these videos, and a lot of you have kindly donated a lot of money to me to go and buy another camera, and I really must get my ass in gear and go and buy that camera now that we're returning to normality, because this iPhone 6 is doing my head in. Basically what happens is they become, if you don't know about iPhones, what happens is they seem to sort of download all this crap and basically just get more and more full, even though there's nothing on there. So you can have no apps, no photos, no numbers, nothing, and it'll still be 15.6 gig of 16 gig used. And then you look down and it's like Apple have got the 15.6 gig. I don't know what it is. So you basically do a complete reset, you wipe the phone and everything, brilliant. And then you go in and you have to reset it all like it's a brand new phone. What it decided to do was obviously my fault because I forgot to do it. It decided to put all my photos in the iCloud, and it links this phone with my other phone. And it tried to put all the photos in the iCloud, and it said I don't have enough space in the iCloud, I need to pay money. Well, I didn't want to do that, so I just said, well, I don't want to do that. Download them to the iPhone. And then it said, you don't have enough memory in your iPhone to download all the photos, so I had to just get rid of them. Now, I don't know what's going on. It managed to keep 3, but I've made about 5 segments for part 2, and I've only got about 3 of them. So basically, what you're about to see is me starting to paint the cockpit. We're going to paint the seats and everything, and then we're going to do the black. Now, what happened when we did the black, and it's such a shame we've lost it because it's such a valuable piece of video footage. Basically, the cockpit floor, and you can see a bit of it here. If I show you close up, you can see a bit of it there on this area. The paint has gone all like lumpy in little areas of shininess, and what that is, it's reacting with the grease. Remember I said I didn't wash these parts, and we should always wash the parts. I did it really bad under here, and also got an ejector pin mark to sand out, so that's what we're going to be doing next. Because I didn't wash the parts, there was grease on them, it reacted with the paint, and it's such a shame that that bit of footage is lost, because so many people say you don't need to do that. I say you do. And because I just wanted to get on and start this build, I didn't do it and paid the price. So this looked bloody awful down here. It may be shown in the clip, I don't know, but I've now got to go back on myself. So anyway, so welcome along to part 2. Enjoy the next 3 segments, and then once we've got all this black paint done, I'll pick it up from there, and it's the next day. Right, so I've got all the stuff there all stuck up now, all ready to go. I've got some XF3 for my trainer yellow. Neat in the airbrush, just taking it straight out of the pot. Blow back through just to make sure we're all clear in the nozzle. Do a little test on here, and then just literally at 18-20 psi. You really want to try avoiding thinning it because, as I said before, with yellow it's so difficult. Now I would have used the LP8 on this. What I should have done was sprayed these when I sprayed that ladder. But the LP8 is a lot brighter than this. And this is supposed to be sort of dulled down a little bit, like a sort of very pale yellow. So if we put it on thinly, we should get some of the grey showing through. And it will give us that pale colour that we're looking for. As you can see, if you put it on very, very thinly, it's almost like dry brushing it on. The air that's coming along behind it is drying it before the next lot of paint gets to it. Okay, if you try and plaster it on, you'll end up with all sorts of trouble. So there we go, that's those done yellow, so they can sit and wait. If you've seen one of my videos, I did this made this from an old piece of cardboard, just folded it up and put some tape around it, and that makes a great little stand to stand your bits up in, like that. Okay, so I've still got plenty of paint left in there, so I'm going to get rid of that into the airbrush cleaning station, put some thinners through it, and then we'll get all this painted LP5. Okay, I decided to use Tamiya X18 because I've got the LP5 here, but I don't have a lot of it left, and I've got about 3 jars of this. So I'm going to use the X18. I'm not using XF1 flat black because it's not very resilient for dry brushing and stuff. So I'm going to use the X18 because I've got plenty of it, and I'm going to use Mr. Colour leveling thinners to thin it with. So I really should be doing it in the spray booth, but I've got the window open, it's right beside me, so we're not really too worried about that. So I'm only doing a little bit of painting. So I'll just put some thinners in there. As you can see, it's not even very clean, that thinners. But hey ho, it doesn't matter because it's black and it's a cockpit that we're never going to see. So I'm just going to remove some paint from the jar with a brush and rub it off into there. And this is how I do it. I don't like pouring it in because A, you often miss and get it down the side of the airbrush, and B, I even miss with the brushlet. And B, it ends up all down in the threads of the jar and then you can't get the lids off. So I'm going to have this fairly thin because you have to remember that with all these shapes and nooks and crannies and everything, you're going to have to, just wipe that off, you're going to have to spray it on quite thinly and quite a lot. So if you have the paint too thick, if you can imagine, you're going to be spraying over, when you paint this, you're going to be moving it around all the different angles. If the paint's too thick, you'll be putting on lots of layers of paint in the same area. So what you want to do is make sure that you're not having the paint too thick. So that's probably about 60% thinners, 40% paint. And then what I always do is put my finger over the end of the nozzle and just do that, just to blow back, because what you'll have when you put thinners in there, you would have filled the needle area up with thinners, and then when you put the paint in the top it won't mix. But doing that pushes the air back, it pushes the thinners back up into the paint, and it will get stirred up. So we'll just do a little test. Again, it's about 18-20 psi, and then we can just lightly start to get some paint on these seats. Just going in lightly. From all the angles. There we go. So that's that one done. We can stand that up in our cardboard stand. Do this one. And you can tell my mojo's going, guys, because I'm actually doing this while I'm uploading part 1. So hopefully I can keep my mojo going and get this thing done, start to finish. I can stand that up over there, and then these 3 here, they're got ejector pin marks on them. I'm not going to worry about it because we're not going to see them. There we go, that's them all done. I know some of you may be saying, why are you not bothered about ejector pin marks if you're worried about painting the details and stuff? Painting the details takes a couple of seconds and it's a bit of fun. Dealing with sunken ejector pin marks means lots of sanding and filling and waiting for fillers to dry and stuff on something you're never ever going to see. It's just not worth it. So there we go, so put them to one side. And then we can come along and we've got our cockpit to do. So now we've got this great big noseway area to hold. So we just come in from this angle and paint everything. Okay, then we can turn it around, coming from the opposite angle, paint everything. Coming from the top. As you can see, I'm slowly building it up. Coming from the front. Just make sure that every angle you look at it, you can see black paint. Okay, and I know on this model it's not really applicable because you're not going to see it, but this is good sort of, not tuition, but good help. Help is the word I'll use for less experienced modelers who sometimes wonder why they can't get everything one colour and it all looks a bit odd. It's just because of the angles you paint at. And this is what I said about having the paint too thin. If you think about it, I've probably painted over those side panels about 7 or 8 times. If the paint was too thick, it would just be all flooded with everything. So we'll get in and get this bulkhead done from both sides. Get this floor area done. Again, we're going to have to change angles to get around those seat mounts. And then we can get up in there. Make sure all that is done. Make sure the underneath of that table is done because you're going to see that up through the hatch. There we go. One black cockpit. Now we've got to do this area in here. Again, making sure we get all these and the side of all these ribs and everything. You just basically want to make sure you can't see any light grey anywhere, whatever angle you look at it on. Quite an interesting texture on the plastic on there, which is interesting. And there we go. That's it. Done. Let that dry, it'll all settle down and pull itself back. And that'll be that. And we're almost out of paint. I'll get some more paint in there and then I'll just do inside the cockpit area. And then we're going to be looking up through. I'll just get some more paint in there. So I'll get that done and then I'll come back. Okay, right, so painting these yellow seats, which is something we can be getting on with now. And basically we've got all these colours on there. And we're going to go for it. We may as well because, hey. So we've got a leather brown here for the armrests. And this is a game colour. Then I've got this hemp I'm going to use for the actual backrest of the seat. Then we've got this here, which is like a bone white. I'm going to put on very thin over the yellow just for that headrest area. I've got a blue here, ultramarine blue for the lower seat belts. And then we've got this sand colour here for the upper seat belts. And also we've got other bits and pieces we're going to have to do on the other seats. So I'm just going to have a look a second. 62 is the leather colour. So basically the base of these seats is going to be 62. The back is 72, which is a colour I haven't even looked at yet. So 72 is what? This is crazy. You wouldn't even see these if you did have the cockpit open. 72 is like a khaki drill, so I'm going to use that again on those seats. And 72 is a khaki drill again on those. And then we need a drop of red for the fire extinguishers, but I'm not going to do anything on the cockpit yet because I'm probably going to have to repaint it because as you can see that's not settling down. If you can see that horrible mess, it's not settling down at all, so we're going to have to rub that down or go over some thinners, just get it off and then paint it again. But that's for another time. So simple to do this, and all the colours I'm using here are water based, so they don't lift what's underneath. So I use an old eyedropper bottle, okay, because you can just put a couple of drops of water out. So the first thing I'm going to paint is the actual backrest itself. So I'll get my khaki here and just put a drop down there. We don't need too much. Okay, and then we can just get this on here and paint it onto this backrest. So I'm assuming it's going to go around the sides as well. So we'll just come across here. I really would normally do this through a magnifier, so if I make a mess, I'm sorry. As I say, I would normally do this through a magnifier. And I'm assuming this whole backrest area would be this colour. Yeah, let's go the whole hog. Let's do the whole thing. We'll come around the sides as well. We can see a bit of the yellow shining through. I'm not worried about that. It's going to add a bit of effect, if anything. So there we go, that's that done. We'll come over the top, come down the side, just like so, over the top, and there we go. Okay, turn around, do the other one, across the bottom. In like that. And we'll go down the sides. And there we are. That's the backs painted. Okay, so just give the brush a wipe, piece of paper towel, clean that off. That's that done. Okay. Oh, I was meant to do those other seats as well, wasn't I? So the backs, I believe it was the backs of these seats were khaki brown. Okay, 72 it was, wasn't it? Yeah. So it's going to be the headrest area on these, which is never going to be seen again. But hey, it's a modelling video. And then also these little rolls on the floor, whatever they are. I must say, something I'm liking about this build, or the reviews I've done, as I said, as I'm filming this, part one hasn't even finished uploading. A lot of people are reaching out, a lot of people who know a lot about the Vulcan, who worked on it, went to the Ascension Islands. You know, a lot of you are reaching out with some great stories, so thanks for that, guys. And also some interesting facts. There we go, it's just roughly done. I mean, it doesn't need to be perfect. There we go. A lesson in how to waste time. But hey. That one there has no, that single seat has no khaki brown on it at all. So there we go, that's that one done. So just give the brush a wipe. Now we're going to do those lower seat belts. Oh, that's a bit ganky on the end of there, isn't it? And this is good actually. I wanted the paint to be quite dry because it makes it a lot easier to paint the detail without it all flooding over the edges. So we're just going to come across. Wow, I do need the magnifier for this. I may go off. I'll just go off camera and do this. Okay, right. So back now after the lost footage. So as you can see, we've got the insides of the sides of the fuselage painted. This floor area, as I said, was the paint all bubbled up and looked horrible. And this area is what you see when you look directly up through the hatch. That's what you're looking straight at. So I didn't realise that at the time. So I've had to get rid of the ejector pin mark, and I've got rid of the paint. If you want to get rid of the paint, use the same thinners that you use to thin the paint with on a brush and just brush it out, and it will come away. And then you can get in there with a cotton bud, remove the paint, and then just repair it like that. It's such a shame that we've lost that footage because it's so valuable for you guys, the newer guys out there. So I could bloody strangle Apple. All it was because when I reset the phone, of course, Apple automatically turns on everything, including iCloud, and they want every bit of information you've got. So I've redone it now and I've turned everything off. So it's also interesting when you reboot your iPhone, Apple automatically puts half a gig of apps on there. Half a gig of apps that you just don't use, a load of junk, you know. So this phone never goes anywhere, so it doesn't need Find My Phone and all that rubbish on it. Anyway, the moral of the story is get your ass in gear, Nigel, go and buy the proper bloody camera and have a better experience for all of us. So there we go. So this area here, I've got to get in there and sand it. So I could get in there with one of these flory skinny sticks, like that, flex and sand it. I could get in there with a harder stick, one of these Infini photo etch ones, but whatever I do, I'm going to end up gouging it. So what I'm going to do is use this, unprepared as usual. This here is a dusty box, but in here is this David Union 400 sander, and it's bloody brilliant. I've done a review of it. The only downside to it is it's corded. It has to be plugged into the mains, but hey, it gives you a powerful tool. And then we get all these little attachments that we can get in there with. And basically I can go in and sand in that area. So there's going to be a small one in here that I can get in there with. Don't need a triangular one. It needs to be... Oh, that's too wide. I'm thinking probably... Will that one get in there? No, it's too wide. So we need a narrow one. I did have a... There it is. So we'll get in there with that one. And we'll just sand it, and I'll show you how it works. It's a brilliant little tool. It sort of doesn't, it's not orbital, it strokes forwards and backwards, so it's going to be knocking into that back wall, but it's going to get us a nice flat finish rather than getting there and sanding it and gouging it. Okay, so as we can see kind of strokes. We can adjust the speed. Jess is likely to go mad, so you might hear some barking in a minute. But basically we can lay this in, here we go. We can lay this in here and we can lightly sand on there, and it will give us a nice flat finish. I've not gone it too fast because I don't want to generate loads of heat, and I don't want it banging too hard into that end wall. So as you can see, it's sanding it here, and we will end up with a beautifully flat finish without gouging anything. It's a really good little tool, this is. I don't use it enough, to be honest. But if you look back through my catalogue, I have done a full review of it, a test and everything. And again, it's available from Premium Hobbies, and if you're going to get yourself one, look around for prices, and remember that with Premium Hobbies you can get 10% off with the code NMB10. So just increase the speed a bit, get in there. And there we are, that's that done. Easy as that. And then when we spray that, we shouldn't be able to see anything. Right, so that's all painted now and drying. And we can see some sanding marks in there and stuff. I may have to do it again. This area is proving to be a complete pain in the ass, to be honest. I'm going to leave it like that for now. See where we go with it. Right, so basically, once the paint dries, it should look okay. And I'm going to be matting it back anyway. So basically now we've got to look at getting all this together. But before we do that, we need to get our decals on the instrument panels. So we've got one for the instrument panel here. We've got two for the side consoles here. And then we've got one for that centre area there. We've also got to paint those fire extinguishers red, even though we're never ever going to see them. So let's get the decals cut out and we'll get them put on. I've just realised the other thing I forgot to show you is we got the seats put together. We actually put a wash on them, an industrial dirt wash, and I used this one here, which is Modeller's World oil wash. They're absolutely brilliant. They don't have that horrible sort of enamel thinner smell to them. They have quite a nice smell actually, and they work really, really well. There's all the different colours I've got. There's deep black. There's one there which is old rust, and one there light brown. So you can see all sorts of different colours. You can mix them all together and everything and thin them out. But you know, a very, very nice for doing stuff like that. It's just brought up the details on those seats. Okay, so you can see that's the pilot and co-pilot seats done and all painted up, and then we've got that ladder, the entrance ladder that goes up to the cockpit floor, done in that bright yellow if you remember, and that's going to sit in there looking all lovely, sort of like that. You can see that there. So yeah, and we're never going to see it again, never mind. That area underneath is starting to dry out now, and you can see it's levelling off, so that's going to be fine. It's plenty good enough. For those building this kit, I would recommend dealing with that ejector pin mark before you do any assembly at all, and you have a nice flat surface to be able to sand then and polish up, rather than being stuck with what I've got and having to try and get in there. So right, decals for the newer modelers out there. Always have a pair of scissors you just keep for decaling, because you need a nice sharp pair of scissors. The smaller the better, because quite often you will find you'll be cutting very intricate shapes. You see some people using a knife to cut out decals. That's fine if we're going to cut out this instrument panel, for example, and I'm going to go like this around here. Okay, this is fine. Stay away from that brown decal. Okay, that's fine, but what happens is, and I don't know if you're going to see it, I don't know if I can catch it in the light. The problem is when you cut with a knife, no, we can't pick it up, the camera's not good enough. When you cut with a knife, as you cut down, it tends to raise the areas on the side, so you end up with, instead of having a flat cut, you end up with it like a ploughed field. As it draws through, it pushes material sideways, and you end up with a raised edge, and that can actually affect your decal. So if you're cutting really close to the edge, don't use a knife, use scissors. Scissors have a slicing action and leave a much better cut. So if we're going to cut these out with our scissors, we go in here, just cut like that, cut like that. And it's also not a good idea to let the scissors cut to the end, because they do the same thing as a knife. And we've got to try and get our hand around here and cut that one out without damaging anything. So we know that one's number 4, so we'll put that one over there. Okay, and then we're going to use 3B. 3A goes in the cockpit glazing, I believe. Yes, so 3B is this one here. You can see what I mean. When you cut with the end of the scissors, as you get to the end, it leaves a horrible mark in it, so be careful of that as well. And you'll find on some of the short run kits you have to cut every decal out individually, because they are actually they're not printed separately. When you get a decal sheet, have a look at it, shine it in the light, and you can see, if I can show you on here, you can see that all of these decals are individual. You can see, like around this one here, you can see the carrier film, it's individual. If you don't see the carrier film, it means it's just printed in one sheet, so you have to cut every one out individually. In other words, to put it in simple terms, if I drop this in a bowl of water, they would all come off separately. With some of the short run kits, or the older, very old kits, if you drop the decal sheet in a bowl of water, it would all come off as one piece. So be careful of that. So we've got 1, 2, 3B and 4. So that's all the ones we need for there. So a lot of people say about using warm water and this, that and the other. I just put some water on the bench like this. As long as the water's not freezing cold, it'll be fine. So we get the first one there, we'll dip it in the water. You can put it face down to stop it curling up, and then get it out of the water and just lay it down in front of you. Then we're going to come along with our tweezers, and I'm using Micro Set and Sol here. There's lots and lots of different manufacturers, setting agents. I prefer to use Set and Sol, and all they do is just aid the adhesion. Again, as with oil paints, use a brush which is dedicated only to decals. Don't go, because I actually made the mistake once. I was mixing brushes, and I actually used a brush that had some lacquer thinners in it, and it completely destroyed the decal. If you've got decals that won't lay down, put a drop of extra thin, or a drop of you can use extra thin actually, a drop of Mr. Colour leveling thinners. You can drop that on there and it will make anything go down. So we don't really need tweezers for this one. We can just drop this on and then pull the paper away, and then we can use the tweezers just to position it I'm just going to go down over those joysticks, just like so. Okay, and that's gone down lovely. Push it right down so it's not sticking out too far on the top. And then we can come along with a cotton bud and just dab it in the middle and then roll from side to side. And you're rolling it like a wheel that's got grip. You're not trying to move it around, you're just rolling it over the surface just to squeeze out any air bubbles or any moisture that's behind it. Also, a lot of people will tell you need a perfectly gloss finish for decals to go down properly. I would agree with that 99% of the time. However, if you've got a nice semi-gloss finish like this is, it will be fine. What you need to avoid is putting them onto matte paint that's got a grainy, dry finish. You can get away with it, but you're more likely to get the what's called silvering, which is air bubbles underneath. So that's that one gone down. And then we can take number 2, we can put that in the water, place that over here, and number 2 is going to go on the left hand side. So I'm just going to get my tweezers and push that decal in around those control sticks, joysticks, whatever you call them. Okay, so again we'll get some of our micro set, the blue one, and what you do is just brush that over the decal you've just put down and just let it dry. And then we're going to put some on here where this number 2 is going to go. That's not ready to go yet. What you do is just hold the paper and just put your finger on it. If it doesn't want to slide, don't force it. When it's ready to come off, it will slide off easily. So what I'm going to do is just put these in, get them wet so that they're ready to go when I need them. There we go. So that one's taking quite a time. And if you're wondering why I put micro set on the decal after it's gone down, read the instructions on the bottle. No one ever does it, but it does say on the bottle that you have to put micro set down on the top of the decal and under it. There you go. So that's ready to come off. So I'm just going to get it roughly in position, put my finger on there and slide the paper away. And then you can see we've got it positioned like so. As I say, because of the locality of these decals and how much of it we're going to see, it's really not a big fuss, but may as well do the job as best we can. And we'll get our cotton bud again, push down in the middle and roll out. We're just rolling out any moisture that's under there, just like so. And then a drop of the micro set on the top. As you can see, it moved then, so I'm just going to roll it down again. It's gone down now. It actually needs to move back a bit. There we go. It's just going. There we are. And then a drop of the set on the top. Okay, and then we're going to put a drop of micro set over here. Oops, that's too much. Soak that out with the cotton bud. And we'll get this one, he's ready to go. Which way round is this going to go? Okay, it's that way. So pull the paper out. Position the decal. All kind of rinse and repeat really, isn't it? And then we'll roll it out just like so. Make sure it's gone down nicely, and then put a drop of microset on the top, drop of microset in the middle, and then come along with this one, and this is going to go with the white bit facing backwards. So what we could do with this one is actually use our tweezers and pick the decal up and put it in position like so. There we go. Just push that one down. Just like that. Drop a microset on the top. And then what we can do is just leave them to dry. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is just come along with the micro sole, and what this does, this will actually soften the decal and tighten it up on the surface and pull it down. Now this would not really necessary on flat surfaces like this, but what it will do is make sure the edges curl around and everything. That's what we want, is the edges to curl around and go down tight and everything. And sometimes when you put this on, the decal will wrinkle up. Don't worry about it, don't touch it, don't do anything, just leave it, let it wrinkle up. I guarantee you it will flatten out when you're finished. So there we are, that's our cockpit all done. So we need to come in now with some red paint, paint those fire extinguishers, and we're pretty much done. We just put it all together. Right, so that's that done. Fire extinguishers painted red, just a drop of a tiny brush, inverted Tamiya jars again, and just paint it red. So that's all dried out lovely on the bottom there now, that's fine. So now we need to start getting it all together. So this ladder is going to glue up underneath, according to the instructions, it's going to glue up underneath this ledge at the back. So what I'm going to do is with a number 10 blade, I'm just going to scratch away some of the paint on there, and I'm just going to scratch away some of the paint on here, because I want a nice strong joint. And you can glue through paint. A lot of people say you can't. You can, absolutely fine, no problem whatsoever. But if you want a nice strong joint, you've only got one small area like this, then it's best to clean it up first, just to make sure you've got like a solid plastic to plastic weld. And I've got to try and hold this and get it up under there somehow. We'll just pop it in like that, and it falls straight off. Why won't it stay? There we go. Let's center it up. If we need to touch up any of the black, we will. Get it centered. Let's just go over a touch more. There we are. That's just going to sit like that in there. So that's what we're going to see. We look up underneath, we'll see that ladder. So it's all starting to take shape now, starting to look pretty. And I think what I will do is just put a little drop of extra thin in there, just to make sure. There we go. So that's that. Now these seats can go in. Now what we can do with these seats is just put a drop of extra in fact, I'm going to put the rear seats in first, because it will give me a bit more room to go in. The rear seats are here, stuck to blue tack. Now this centre one is going to be a nightmare, because all it's got is these four tiny little legs. So again, I'm going to go in with my knife. Maybe I shouldn't have glued this bulkhead on. If I can get that bulkhead to come away again. So we get some glue, put some extra thin in here, put some extra thin in here. Give it a couple of minutes. I'm going to have to paint that area in there again, I expect. And it should start to just come away. As you can see, it's starting to go. You can see that tab over there, look, it's starting to pull inside. I shouldn't have glued it on. There we go, it's off now. So it's come off perfectly, left all the tabs and everything, and if we glue these seats on quick, then we shouldn't have any trouble gluing it back together with any paint issues. So I'm going to remove the paint from these areas here. And then we can glue this seat in. So I'll put a drop of cement in there and a drop of cement in there. We just put the front legs in, put the back legs in. No. Ah. There we go, we've got a nice strong joint on there, so I'm just going to put a drop more extra thin in there. Okay, now these have got a lovely large location, so what we can do with these is put a drop of extra thin on the top of there and just put them down on like that. Okay, same on this one, drop of extra thin on there, put that one down in like that. Okay, and then we can get this rear bulkhead and get it back on and hopefully not have to do any touch-ups at all. There we go, as you can see that's gone on absolutely fine. And we don't even need to touch up down in there, look. So there you go. Don't forget this is going to get a matte coat so to dull it down. So there we go, that's that done. So now we can drop these pilot and co-pilot seat in. Just drop that down into that slot, just like that. Make sure it's gone down fully in or it'll probably foul on the roof. Come on, there you go. There we are. There is our finished cockpit. Now when I was over here it did crack, didn't it? So I'm just going to put some more glue in there because I cracked that joint. So there we go, there's our cockpit all done. So you can see a little bit of time and effort, a little bit of fuss, a little bit of fiddling about, you can get a lovely looking cockpit that you're not going to see any of. So even if you do take the canopy off, I'm not sure how much you're going to see of it then. Here we go, that's all you can see. So you'll see nothing down in the back whatsoever. When you look up underneath, you can just see the backs of those seats. So there we go, guys. Right, so the next thing we've got to do is get this glazing in, and then we can get these fuselage halves together. Right, so we've got that one in. That one's in that side. No, I haven't. That one's in that side. Bear in mind, look at this, it's upside down, so be careful. Although I don't think it matters which goes in which. I think they're probably both the same, but 4 is in that side and 5 is in this side. So basically, got them off the sprue. It's a tiny little part. Just going to drop that in there, into the hole. It's a perfect fit. Okay, and a lot of people don't like to do this. They like to use all sorts of different glues. I like to use extra thin where possible, so you get the weld. Just feel on the outside to make sure it's smooth. And I literally just come in with a drop of extra thin and just tap it, and that's it. And then do not touch it. If you touch it, you'll make a finger mark. You'll get the black paint running all over the glass, and you can see it goes in, and the paint, the glue has gone all the way around. Okay, and that is glued in solid. Okay, that ain't going anywhere. So that's how I like to do things. A lot of people like to use PVAs and stuff. The trouble is with PVA, it doesn't set hard, so it sort of allows things to move around. You could find that when you mask it and push on it, whatever, it might pop out. So there we go. While we're here, we also may as well do this bomber's viewing area, viewing port, should I say. So we can get that off of there, get that back in the bag so nothing gets scratched. Come on, go back in, there we go. So here's our panel here. I'll just take this off, we're going to be using it in a minute. Just take that one off of there. Move that sprue. Going to get my hard sander. Just remove that nib from there. Just remove that nib from there. Same here. Oops. Just clean that nib off with a knife. And sand away. There we go, that's all nice and smooth and good to go. Right, so this clear part is going to have a nib on the side. So we'll just sand that away. Just like so, that's gone. And then we can just trim off these little ejector tabs. Quick clean up where they've been. And something I would often do is colour the outside edge, paint around the outside edge of the clear part with a black marker pen or something. But we'll see if we need that on this or not. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. If you look at this, you can see, and I'll show you before and after, you can see that you've got like a silver edge around the window. Even when you paint this around here, you're still going to have that silver edge. So what I do is come along with a black marker pen. Where's my Sharpie gone? Who stole my Sharpie? There it is. So I come along with a Sharpie. Excuse me. And I'll just go around the edge. Okay, just like that. Get into the corner. Got the side. And don't worry if you get any on the surface, you could just wipe that off with a bit of alcohol. A bit of Tamiya thinners. Okay, so you can see what we've done is gone around the edge of that with a Sharpie, and then when we put this in now, you'll see the difference. So you can see now we don't have that shiny silvery edge. It almost looks like a black rubber seal in there. Okay, so that's another tip for today, and I learnt that from a guy called Ian Olvey. He built a beautiful model of a 1/32 Heinkel HE111 many years ago on large scale planes, and that was what he did on the nose canopy. You know, it's got all the glazing, and I thought, what a fantastic idea. I've done it ever since. I do it on everything now. And just put in the extra thinner, as I say, put it in and do not touch it. Just let the glue flow around. And it's nice to see that Airfix have done this. They've put like a location tab either side. A lot of models like that Kitty Hawk Ural I've been building, you have to glue the edge of the window, and it's a nightmare. So I'm just going to give it a tap on the back just to make sure it has gone down. Yes, it has. So there we go, that's gone in there now. You haven't got that horrible shiny silver edge on it. Job done. So that can be left to dry. So that's ready to go when we need it. So now we can look at getting the fuselage halves together. And the first thing I'm going to do is remove, in fact I will use this, remove this excess paint from around here. Oops, I'm moving that because I don't want it to affect the fit of the fuselage. There we go, good to go. Right, I said I was going to flat coat that in there, and I don't think I'm going to bother. Right, so that is going to pop into there like so. Like that. And then that is going to pop onto there like so. And it's all going to fit beautifully. Right, so what you know is take this one away. And we can put some extra thin around these walls just to give it something to bite on. I'm just going to put a drop down there. Okay. And I'm wondering if I just touched that window, did I? No, I didn't. Careful not to push in on the windows. And then that one can go up like that. Okay, and what we can do here is just put some extra thin in there. And a drop down in there. Now we're going to have to be extra careful with this bottom edge, because as you can see, I will show in the close-up, as you can see it will go like this, it will all move around and you can end up with a great big step to sand. I can show you from the front edge is easier. You can see you can get this effect. So we have to be very careful. So we can deal with the top first and make sure we get the top lovely. And what I do is run my fingernail, what I've got of a fingernail, across it, and you should feel a step both ways, and that means you've got it lovely. So we've got that like that now. We can just come along with our extra thin and just brush it into that joint and let the capillary action take it in, and don't be frightened to have too much on there. You do not want a dry joint in this area. Hold that together. Okay, once it starts to go off, we can start to touch it and feel it and make sure that it's even. Come along with something like a straight edge, just roll it over, just make sure it's even. What you're trying to make sure is you've got them together like that, not like this. You can see from the front that it's even there. Particularly where the canopy is going to go, you want that nice and level. So you can see there, if I run my finger across this way, I'll step that way and nothing that way, which means this side is slightly higher, so I can just squeeze it down. What I want is to feel a step both ways. There we go, that's level now. If you notice, I'm not using any tape, I'm not using any rubber bands. If I do that, the risk is when you put the glue on, the glue will capillary under the rubber band of the tape and it will ruin the finish of your fuselage. So, and also notice I'm only doing one area at a time. And this is the most critical area, so I'm doing this first. So we get this perfect, and if we have to wrestle with this to get it nice, or wrestle under here to get it nice, it's better to have to put filler and sanding and stuff in the bottom than it is in the top. So I'm not going to bore you anymore with this. I'm going to get this glued together off camera, show you me leveling this up, and then I think we'll call it a day. Okay, so I've done the top halves of the fuselage and they're glued together and curing, and they're nice and level. One thing I am very surprised about is this is designed by a modeler, 4 modelers. They've got a lump there right next to the seam. You'd have thought they'd have done that as a separate part. So I'll remove the tape and show you. I don't quite know how on earth you're going to clean that seam up. You can see we've got a lump right there, right next to the seam. I don't know how you're going to clean that up without destroying that lump. It's going to be, I guess it'd just be careful sanding. Anyway, so this lower area, as you can see, it's kind of, it wants to be all over the place. So we're going to have to do some trickery here. Now this back edge doesn't quite want to get completely perfectly flat. It's like the plastic is slightly thicker. So I'm going to see if I can get a knife in there. If I get a knife in there and remove some of that plastic. I didn't notice this before. Maybe there's a piece of debris or something in there. But it doesn't seem to want to go. So if I try, perhaps lift this side up. I don't know how it's going to fit with this. Yeah, it's that side needs to go down, so I'll just have to sand it. What we'll do is glue it together, and I'll just sand this surface to match the lower panel. You see, I can push it in, but it's not they're not the same shape. If I level it up there, it comes out at the front. You see, so that's I have to be careful of. So what we're going to do is I'm going to use some. In fact, I'm going to use my Mr. Cement SP because it's got a bigger brush. I can get more in there. So I can get some of this in there and let the capillary action pull it along. Okay, and now we can squeeze that together. We can make sure the front's correct. And then we can push the back about. Yeah, you can see it's when it's level there, it's not level there. If I get it level there, it's out on the front. So if you're building one of these, I would suggest removing some material from the inside of the fuselage and the back of there. There we go. That's as good as we're going to get it. I've got a bit of a step there, but I'm going to sand that down. I know that this is proud, so I'm not going to be filling. I'm going to be sanding. I want to try and avoid any filler at all if I can. So that's going to fit in there. Yeah, it's going to have to be sanded and blended anyway. So there we are. So get some tape on there. Pull that together nice and tight. There we go. Make sure the top's right, that's the main thing, and this area here is going to have to be sanded and blended. We've got no panel detail or anything to worry about, so it's all just going to be a walk in the park. Just sand that and get it all sorted out. So we shall get some more tape on there and pull that in. Job done. Okay. And that, my friends, is that. So this is going to fit into here. And as we can see, we've got a gap across the middle, but it's touching on the ends. So what I'm going to do is just with a sanding stick, just remove some plastic from the ends, just to exaggerate it, sort of radius the front off, make it fit in there a bit nicer. It's a panel line anyway, so what we'll probably do is glue it in and then mist a surfacer and remove with alcohol, and that'll give us a panel line. And I'm assuming this is a panel line here as well. this panel doesn't fit perfectly. It's kind of a little bit proud, so that's good. We can sand it and blend it. Better to have it proud than shallow. You can see here when you look at the back, it's kind of bigger than the slot. So in fact what I'm going to have to do, I'll make it suit the fuselage, and then if it doesn't match the wing, we'll sand the wing to suit. I was wondering if this is right, and I've got the fuselage pulled in, but I think not. Yeah, because that panel is up against the floor, so it's going to have to be sanded and blended. But that's all good. Considering the assembly of parts, the fit is impeccable. Right on Airfix, awesome. Really, really nice. So I'm not going to put this on yet. I'm going to get all this sanded and let that dry, get it all sanded, and then we'll fit that panel in after. Right, so while all the glue's drying on these seams and everything, I thought we'll go on and put the nose on. I'm going for version A because you've got the option with here, although it's not mentioned in the instructions, you can have it with just the tit. You can have it with the tit and the fueling probe, but you can have it with just the fueling probe. So your options are open then. Because I have got, I can't remember if I already showed you this, guys, but I have got an aftermarket Decal set, so I can actually make a lot more versions than we've got in the box, or with the instructions, because there's a bit of confusion. I'm noticing in the comments there's a bit of confusion about the colour schemes with relation to the blue steel, which I completely agree with, and also they're saying that the white version is the only one you can build with the bomb doors open, with the white ones wouldn't have had bombs, I don't believe, I don't know, but anyway, there's a bit of confusion. There's also some confusion. Somebody's linked a picture to this aircraft, okay, which is XM594, which is currently on display, and it's got a different exhaust, it's got a different fin topping, it's got markings on the tail that this kit doesn't include. So I think this kit is actually that aircraft on a particular day, you know, in 1966, and then since then it's been changed. So I think that's what they're doing there. This model, this livery is that aircraft on that day, whereas that aircraft today has a different tail fin. It has the ordinary plain bomb bay, it has different markings on the tail, has different exhausts, I believe. So yeah, don't get ground under with that though, Nige, because you know what happens. Right, so looking at this nose, we can see on here that we've got a scribed panel line. Okay, you can see a panel line going along here, and then it's very, very soft in the nose, if you can, just about see it. So what I've done is just run over it with a scriber on the other side and made it match. So all I've done is come along with a Tamiya scriber. These are really good for following old scribe lines. I've got other scribers which I find are really good for scribing, but they don't like tracking in other lines. It's very weird. So this just literally, you can see how I've got my fingers, literally just going to lay this on because it's very, very faint. We could start by pushing it along and then just pull it back, and I'm just letting the weight of the scriber do the work. If I push it in and it slips, it will leave a gouge that I'll have to fill. So all I'm doing, you can see how I'm holding it between my fingers, and it's just literally the weight of the scriber, and just scratch away. It's not a race. Okay, and then you can come in from the other way. Let it roll off the end so you don't get a blunt end on it. And as you get a deeper groove, you can start to apply a tiny bit of pressure and literally just scratch it out a bit deeper. And there we go. So that side's done, and that side could do with a tiny little bit more. There we go. Then we could just glue that on. So we hold it in place, get some extra thin, and just run it around the outside. Now, I'm not sure if this is a panel line where the nose goes or what. You can see we got a bit of work to do there. There we go, that's that on. Just feel it nice and smooth, there's no big steps. There we go. It's one nice thing about not having rivet detail. When you come along to sand and fill and stuff, you haven't got anything to replace. Plus on the Vulcan you wouldn't see any rivets anyway. Just make sure those scribe lines are lined up. And there we are. That's the nose on. Job done. Okay, so I've done some rough sanding around this area here just to get it sort of leveled out a bit. So we've got a flat area here, so I've just sanded that flat and then just put the radius back into the nose just roughly, just to get the rough shape so we can get this panel glued in. Remember, if you're having this door shut, now's the time to glue it in. But there we go, that's in like that. I'm not sure what goes into these two holes here. Oh, a couple of little pitot tubes by the look of it. So basically you can see we've got a much nicer fit on there now. So what we can do is just hold that in place, come along with some extra thin, run it round the seam, get plenty in there, nice strong joint. This is all panel lines, I think. So run some in there, get that to go in, get it evened up. Minimise the filling and sanding. We are going to be using some Mr. Surfacer here, but as you know, that's my tipple, if you like. Just get some in there. As you can see, I'm getting glue on the surface. I'm not worried about it because I'm going to have to sand and blend. It looks a bit worse than it is because as the glue goes in, it's dissolving the little traces of black paint that are on the edge. So you end up with a worse looking gap than you've actually got. So there we are. So if you're not familiar, you will see Mr. Surfacer being used, Mr. Surfacer being sanded, Mr. Surfacer being removed with thinners, and all good stuff. Okay, so now the glue's gone off. If you notice, I glue everything first and then tape it afterwards. If you do it too quickly, you will end up with the glue capillarying under your tape. If you do the tape first, obviously the glue will capillary under the tape. So just be careful because you'll ruin the surface of your model. There we go, that's taped in place, and you can see it's not fitting perfectly, but because it's all lovely and smooth and the rivets, it's going to be easy to fix. We may have to put a piece of plastic card in there because we've got a little bit of a step on that side, not on that side. So that's going to be fine. So there we go. That's that section basically done. Other than the clear part, I'm not putting the glazing on yet. I may put some tape or something over there just to protect the headrests. But I think we can put this to one side now because now we are going to start working on the main frame. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you all for part 3, and I think what I'll probably do next is get the intakes glued together so that when we come to sand them and fill them and that, they're all nice and solid and ready to go. I'll see you soon for part 3. Bye for now. Oh, hang on, before I go, here you go, have a good look. Have a look at the easy cockpit with all your instruments in there. Got your ladder, you can see the ladder up through there, which is nice. Okay, you've got your bomber's view and the area there. Remember, we went around the edge of that clear part with some black, and it gets rid of that silver. So there we are. The other thing you can do with these, if you want to, if you paint the inside of the plastic edge matte black and do the edge of the clear part, that gives you a really good, if you want to see it, if you go back to my previous build, the Kitty Hawk Ural trucks, I did it on them, painting around the black, and you'll see that it does really make it look good. So much better than just having a piece of clear plastic glued in. Right, so I'll see you all soon, guys, for part 3. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.